The old Jeep bounced along the dusty road as Dr. Maya Chen gripped the steering wheel tightly. She had driven for hours through the desert to reach this remote Apache reservation in Arizona. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Maya was a cultural researcher who studied how different tribes lived and kept their traditions alive. She had spent 3 years planning this trip. Maya wanted to learn about Apache ceremonies and write about them for her university. Her professors said this research could make her famous in her field. But as she looked at the vast desert around her, Maya felt nervous. She was far from her comfortable life in the city. The reservation looked different from what she expected. Instead of old buildings, she saw modern houses mixed with traditional structures. Children played in the yards while older people sat on porches watching the sunset. Maya parked near what looked like the main community center. As she stepped out of her Jeep, the dry desert air hit her face. She could hear drums beating in the distance. Maya grabbed her notebook and camera, checking her appearance in the car mirror. She wore simple clothes, jeans and a white shirt, hoping to blend in and show respect. Following the sound of drums, Maya walked toward a large clearing where many people had gathered. Fires burned in metal bowls, casting dancing shadows on the faces around them. The Apache people wore beautiful traditional clothing with colorful beads and feathers. Maya stayed at the edge of the crowd, not wanting to disturb anyone. The ceremony was unlike anything she had ever seen. Dancers moved in perfect rhythm with the drums. Their feet seemed to speak to the earth itself. An elderly woman sang in the Apache language, her voice carrying stories that seemed older than time. Maya felt something magical in the air. Without thinking, Maya started taking pictures. The camera flash lit up the dark evening. Suddenly, the drum stopped. Every person in the circle turned to look at her. Maya's heart pounded as she realized she had made a terrible mistake. A tall man stepped forward from the circle of dancers. He was the most striking person Maya had ever seen. His long black hair was braided with leather and beads. He wore traditional Apache clothing, but Maya could see modern strength in his movements. His dark eyes seemed to look right through her. "You have no right to be here," he said in a deep voice that made Maya's skin tingle. "This is a sacred ceremony, not a tourist show." Maya's face turned red with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," she stammered. "I'm Dr. Maya Chen from the university. I'm here to study Apache culture. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to take pictures." The man stepped closer and Maya could smell sage and leather on his clothes. "I don't care who you are or where you come from," he said. "You have broken sacred law." An elderly man with gray braids walked over to them. His face was serious but kind. Maya could tell he was important because everyone stepped back to give him space. "This is bad," the elder said, shaking his head. "The flash during our healing ceremony has disturbed the spirits. This cannot be ignored." Maya felt panic rising in her chest. "Please, I'll delete the pictures. I'll leave right now. I really didn't mean any harm." The tall man crossed his arms over his chest. Maya noticed how strong his arms looked, and she quickly pushed that thought away. This was not the time to notice such things. "My name is Diego Redhawk," he said. "I am the keeper of our traditions and protector of our people. What you did tonight cannot be undone with sorry words." The elder nodded slowly. "Diego speaks truth. You have seen things that outsiders should not see. You have taken the spirit's energy into your metal box." Maya looked around at the faces watching her. Some people looked angry, others looked sad. A few children peeked out from behind their parents, curious about the woman who had caused such trouble. "There must be something I can do to make this right," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. Diego and the elder spoke in Apache for several minutes. Maya couldn't understand the words, but she could hear the serious tone. Other tribal members joined the conversation. Finally, Diego turned back to her. "The council has decided," Diego announced. "According to our ancient laws, you must become part of our tribe to fix what has been broken." Maya blinked in confusion. "What does that mean exactly?" The elder stepped forward. "It means you must marry Diego and live as one of us." Maya's mouth fell open. She looked from the elder to Diego and back again. "Marry him? But I don't even know him. I'm only here for research." Diego's jaw was tight, but Maya noticed something strange in his eyes. While his words were hard, his gaze seemed to burn with something deeper than anger. When he looked at her, she felt heat spread through her body. "This is not a choice," Diego said firmly. "It is tribal law. You entered our sacred space and took our spiritual energy. Now you must give your life energy back to us." "But this is crazy," Maya protested. "You can't force someone to get married in modern times." The elder smiled sadly. You came here to study our ways, did you not? Our ways say that some actions require life-changing consequences. You wanted to learn about Apache culture. Now you will live it. Maya looked around desperately, hoping someone would say this was all a joke, but every face was serious. The drums had started again, but softer now, like a heartbeat in the night. Diego stepped even closer to Maya. She could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Do not think this is easy for me either, he said quietly, so only she could hear. I never planned to marry an outsider who doesn't understand our ways. Then let's both say no, Maya whispered back. Tell them we refuse. Diego shook his head. I cannot refuse. I am bound by duty to my people. And you? He paused, his eyes traveling over her face. You have no choice either. Maya felt trapped, but she also felt something else. A strange pull toward this man who seemed so angry with her, yet looked at her like she was the most interesting thing he had ever seen. How long do I have to decide? Maya asked. The ceremony will happen tomorrow night when the moon is full, the elder said. Tonight you will stay in the guest house and think about what you have done. As the crowd began to break up, Diego caught Maya's arm gently. His touch sent electricity through her skin. I will walk you to where you will stay, he said. They walked in silence through the reservation. Maya could feel Diego's presence beside her like heat from a fire. Every time she glanced at him, she caught him looking at her with those intense eyes. You really don't have to marry me, Maya said when they reached a small adobe house. I can just leave and never come back. Diego stopped walking and turned to face her fully. In the moonlight, he looked like a warrior from old stories. You think running away will solve this? Won't it? No, Diego said, his voice softer now. What happened tonight changed something. I felt it, and I think you did too. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She had felt something, but she didn't want to admit it. I don't know what you mean. Diego stepped closer until she could feel his breath on her face. You felt the fire between us. That's why you're really scared. Before Maya could answer, Diego turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone under the desert stars, wondering if her life had just changed forever. Maya barely slept that night. She kept thinking about Diego's words and the way he looked at her. When morning came, she heard a gentle knock on her door. Outside stood a woman about her age with kind eyes and traditional Apache dress. I am Rosa, Diego's cousin, the woman said with a warm smile. I brought you breakfast and clean clothes. Maya invited Rosa inside the small guest house. The smell of fresh bread and coffee filled the room. Rosa had brought traditional Apache clothing, a beautiful dress with intricate beadwork. You don't have to be scared, Rosa said as she poured coffee. Diego is a good man even though he seems angry. He carries heavy responsibilities. Maya sat down across from Rosa. Can you help me understand what's really happening here? This whole marriage thing seems impossible. Rosa's face became serious. Our laws are very old. Older than the reservation, older than the white man's government. When someone disturbs sacred ceremony, they must restore balance. Marriage creates the strongest bond. But why Diego specifically? Maya asked. Because he is our ceremonial leader and keeper of traditions. He was chosen by the spirits when he was young. Rosa paused, studying Maya's face. Also, the elders saw something pass between you two last night. Maya felt her cheeks get warm. I don't know what you mean. Rosa smiled knowingly. The elders have good eyes. They see when two spirits recognize each other. After Rosa left, Maya put on the traditional dress. It fit perfectly, as if it was made for her. She looked at herself in the small mirror and was surprised by how natural she looked in Apache clothing. Around noon, Diego appeared at her door. He wore modern clothes today, jeans and a black shirt, but he still looked powerful and mysterious. His eyes widened slightly when he saw Maya in the traditional dress. You look... He started, then stopped himself. We need to talk about practical things. They walked to a quiet spot by a stream that ran through the reservation. Diego explained how Apache marriage ceremonies worked and what would be expected of Maya if she went through with it. I need you to understand something, Diego said, sitting on a large rock by the water. This isn't just about last night's ceremony. Our people are facing serious problems. Maya sat near him, careful not to get too close. What kind of problems? Diego's jaw tightened. A mining company wants our land. They say they have legal rights to dig for copper in our sacred mountains. We've been fighting them in court for 2 years. What does that have to do with me? A married tribal leader has stronger legal standing than a single one. If I have a wife, especially one with education and connections to the outside world, it helps our case. Maya stared at him. So you're using this traditional law to get a political advantage? Diego's eyes flashed. I'm using every tool I have to protect my people. But don't think this is just politics for me. What do you mean? Diego was quiet for a long moment, watching the water flow over the rocks. I studied at Harvard for 4 years. I could have stayed in Boston, gotten a job with a big law firm, made lots of money. But I came home because this is where I belong. Maya was surprised. You went to Harvard? Full scholarship. I studied law and business. My professors wanted me to stay and work for big companies. Diego picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the water. But my grandmother needed me. My people needed me, so I came back to keep our traditions alive. That must have been a hard choice, Maya said softly. Every day I wonder if I made the right decision. When I see our young people leaving for the cities, when I see our sacred places threatened by mining companies. Diego's voice trailed off. Maya found herself wanting to comfort him. You did the right thing. I can see how much your people respect you. Diego looked at her with those intense eyes again. You don't even know me. How can you say that? I can see it in how people look at you, and I can see it in how hard you're fighting for what you believe in. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Maya noticed how peaceful Diego looked by the water, different from the fierce man who had confronted her the night before. Can I ask you something personal? Maya said. Diego nodded. Have you ever been married before? I mean, do you have someone you love? Diego's expression became guarded. I was engaged once to a woman from another reservation, but she couldn't handle the pressure of being with a tribal leader. She left me for a man who worked in Phoenix. I'm sorry, Maya said, and she meant it. Are you? Diego asked, studying her face. Because if you're thinking about going through with this marriage, you should know what you're getting into. Being my wife means putting the tribe first always. It means living by our laws and customs. It means giving up your old life. Maya's heart started beating faster. Who says I'm thinking about going through with it? Diego moved closer to her on the rock. Maya could smell his cologne mixed with sage. Your eyes say it. You're curious about me, about us, about what it would be like. You're very confident, Maya said, trying to sound calmer than she felt. I have to be. I'm responsible for 1,000 people's lives and futures. Diego reached out and touched a strand of Maya's hair that had escaped from her braid. But with you, I don't feel confident at all. What do you mean? You make me nervous, Diego admitted quietly. When I look at you, I forget about duty and responsibility. I just think about what? Maya whispered. Diego's hand moved to cup her cheek. About what it would feel like to kiss you. About what it would be like to have someone who chose to be with me. Not because of politics or tradition, but because she wanted to. Maya felt herself leaning toward him. Diego. Suddenly a young boy came running up to them. Diego, grandmother needs you at the community center. The men from the mining company are back. Diego immediately stood up, all business again. Stay here, he told Maya. This could get ugly. But Maya stood up too. I'm coming with you. No, it's too dangerous. If I'm going to be part of this tribe, I need to understand what you're facing. Diego looked like he wanted to argue, but there wasn't time. They hurried to the community center where a crowd had gathered. 3 men in expensive suits stood near 2 black SUVs. One of them was shouting at the tribal elder from the night before. We have legal documents, the man was saying. You can't keep us off this land. Diego stepped forward and Maya saw his whole demeanor change. He became the fierce protector she had met the night before. You're trespassing, Diego said calmly but with steel in his voice. This is sovereign tribal land. Not according to this, the man said, waving papers. We have mineral rights dating back to 1887. Those rights were obtained illegally and you know it, Diego replied. Maya watched the confrontation with growing understanding. These men weren't just threatening Diego's traditions. They were threatening his people's home and livelihood. The lead mining company representative noticed Maya standing behind Diego. Who's this? Another activist lawyer? She's my fiancée, Diego said without hesitation. Maya's heart jumped when Diego claimed her so publicly. The way he said fiancée made it sound real and serious. Well, congratulations, the man said mockingly. Enjoy your wedding while you can. By next month, this place will be a mining operation. After the men left, the crowd slowly dispersed. Diego turned to Maya, his face tense. "Now you see what we're really up against," he said. Maya looked around at the faces of Diego's people. Worried mothers, angry young men, scared children. She thought about her comfortable life at the university, her research projects, her small apartment in the city. "The ceremony is tonight?" she asked. Diego nodded, watching her carefully. Maya took a deep breath. "Then I guess we better get ready." Diego's eyes widened. "You're saying yes?" "I'm saying I understand now why you need to fight for this place. And if marrying you helps protect these people and their way of life?" Maya paused, looking into Diego's intense eyes. "Maybe it's time I stopped just studying life and started living it." Diego stepped closer to her. "Maya, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back." Maya felt scared and excited at the same time. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. For the first time since she'd met him, Diego smiled. A real, warm smile that made her heart flutter. "Then tonight, under the full moon, you'll become my wife," he said softly. As Maya walked back to the guest house to prepare for her wedding, she couldn't believe how much her life had changed in just 24 hours. But deep down, she knew this was exactly where she was meant to be. The wedding ceremony was beautiful and strange at the same time. Maya had never experienced anything like it. Under the full moon, with fires burning around them, she and Diego exchanged vows in both English and Apache. When Diego placed a silver bracelet on her wrist, a bracelet made by his grandmother, Maya felt something shift inside her heart. "Now you are part of our family," the elder said as the ceremony ended. "Now you are Apache." Maya spent her first week as Diego's wife living in his family's compound. It was different from anything she had imagined. The house was modern inside, but decorated with traditional Apache art and artifacts. Diego's grandmother, Elena, lived with them, and Maya quickly learned that Elena was the real power in the family. Elena was 90 years old, but still sharp as a knife. She spoke perfect English, but preferred Apache when she wanted to say something important. At first, Elena watched Maya with suspicious eyes. "Grandmother doesn't trust you yet," Diego explained one morning as they drank coffee together. "She thinks you might run away when things get difficult." "Will things get difficult?" Maya asked. Diego gave her a serious look. "They already are difficult. The mining company filed new legal papers yesterday. They're claiming we don't have proper documentation for some of our land." Maya was learning that Diego carried the weight of his people's problems on his shoulders. She watched him work late into the night, making phone calls to lawyers and tribal leaders from other reservations. He barely slept, and Maya could see the stress in his face. One evening, Maya found Elena sitting alone on the back porch, working on a beautiful beadwork design. The old woman looked up when Maya approached. "Sit," Elena said in English. "We need to talk." Maya sat down nervously. Elena continued working on her beadwork as she spoke. "My grandson is a good man, but he tries to carry everything alone," Elena said. "His father died when Diego was 16. Since then, Diego thinks he must be strong for everyone." "He is strong," Maya said. Elena nodded. "Yes, but even strong trees need roots to hold them steady." "Diego has never let anyone be his roots. What do you mean?" Elena set down her beadwork and looked directly at Maya. "He has never let anyone take care of him. He only knows how to take care of others." That night, Maya noticed how tired Diego looked when he came to bed. They had been sleeping in the same room since the wedding, but they hadn't been intimate yet. Everything was still new and strange between them. "You look exhausted," Maya said as Diego sat on the edge of the bed. "I'm fine," Diego said automatically. Maya moved behind him and gently started massaging his shoulders. Diego tensed at first, then slowly relaxed under her touch. "When was the last time you took a break?" Maya asked. "I can't take breaks. Too much depends on me." Maya's hands worked at the knots of tension in Diego's shoulders. Everyone needs rest, even tribal leaders. Diego was quiet for a long moment. Then he said softly, "I haven't had anyone worry about me in a long time." "Well, you have someone now," Maya said, surprised by how much she meant it. Diego turned to look at her. In the soft lamplight, his eyes looked vulnerable instead of fierce. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "This marriage wasn't your choice." Maya thought about her answer. "Maybe it wasn't my choice at first, but staying is my choice. Taking care of you is my choice." Something shifted in Diego's expression. He reached up and touched Maya's face gently. I never expected to feel this way about you. What way? Maya whispered. Like I want to protect you and be protected by you at the same time. Maya felt her heart speed up. She had been fighting her growing feelings for Diego, telling herself this was just a marriage of convenience. But the truth was she was falling for this complicated, passionate man. Diego, she started to say. But he leaned forward and kissed her. The kiss was gentle at first, then deeper. Maya felt heat spread through her entire body. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. I should let you sleep, Diego said, but he didn't move away. I'm not tired, Maya whispered. Diego's eyes darkened. Maya, if we do this, if we become real husband and wife, there's no pretending anymore. I stopped pretending days ago, Maya said, and she kissed him this time. What happened next was passionate and tender at the same time. Diego made love to Maya like she was precious and strong all at once. Afterward, as they lay wrapped in each other's arms, Maya felt like her life had truly begun. The next morning, Maya woke up to find Diego already gone. Rosa told her he had left early for a meeting with the tribal council. Maya decided to explore the reservation more, to better understand her new home. She visited the school where Apache children learned both regular subjects and tribal traditions. She met with the Women's Council and learned about their efforts to keep traditional crafts alive. Everywhere she went, people were kind but cautious. Maya realized she would have to prove herself worthy of their trust. That afternoon, Maya found Elena teaching a group of children traditional Apache stories. The old woman was animated and joyful as she spoke, nothing like the serious person Maya had come to know. Children love stories, Elena explained to Maya later. But parents today worry more about math and science. They forget that stories teach us who we are. Could you teach me some stories? Maya asked. Elena studied Maya's face carefully. You really want to learn? I want to understand this place, these people. I want to understand Diego. Elena smiled for the first time since Maya had met her. Come back tomorrow evening. Bring your notebook if you want, but more important, bring your heart. That night, Diego came home looking more stressed than ever. The tribal council meeting had not gone well. The mining company was pressuring the federal government to review the tribe's land rights. They're questioning our sovereignty, Diego explained as he and Maya walked outside under the stars. If they succeed, we could lose everything. Maya took Diego's hand. What can I do to help? Diego stopped walking and looked at her. You would really help us fight this? Of course. This is my home now, too. Diego pulled Maya into his arms. You're amazing, you know that? As they stood together in the desert night, Maya felt truly at peace for the first time in years. The city life she had left behind seemed like a dream. This was real. The man in her arms, the vast sky above them, the sense of belonging to something bigger than herself. Diego, Maya said softly. What? I think I'm falling in love with you. Diego was quiet for so long that Maya started to worry she had said too much. Then he cupped her face in his hands. I fell in love with you the moment you walked into our ceremony, he said. I was just too scared to admit it. Scared of what? Scared that you would leave when you realized how complicated my life is. Scared that you would miss your old life too much. Maya stood on her tiptoes and kissed Diego under the starlight. I'm not going anywhere, she promised. But even as Maya said the words, she had no idea that forces were already working to tear them apart. The mining company had discovered something about Maya's research that would change everything. And tomorrow, the truth would come out in a way that would test both her love for Diego and her commitment to her new life. As Diego held Maya close that night, neither of them knew it might be their last peaceful moment together for a long time. The battle for their love and their land was about to begin in earnest. Maya woke up to shouting outside. She looked around for Diego, but his side of the bed was empty and cold. The clock showed 6 a.m. Through the window, she could see several black SUVs parked in front of the community center. She dressed quickly and hurried outside. A crowd had gathered around the vehicles. Maya could see Diego in the center, facing off with the same mining company representatives from before. But this time they had brought federal agents with them. What's going on? Maya asked Rosa, who was standing at the edge of the crowd. Rosa's face was grim. They came with search warrants. They're looking for something. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Looking for what? Before Rosa could answer, one of the federal agents approached Maya. He was a tall man in a dark suit with cold eyes. "Dr. Maya Chen?" he asked. "Yes," Maya replied, her heart starting to pound. "Agent Thompson, FBI. We need to speak with you about your research here." Diego heard this and immediately moved to Maya's side. "My wife doesn't have to talk to you without a lawyer present." Agent Thompson smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Actually, she does. Dr. Chen, are you aware that your research grant was funded by Copper Mountain Mining Corporation?" Maya felt like the ground had dropped out from under her. "What? That's impossible. My grant came from the university." The agent pulled out a thick folder. "According to these documents, Copper Mountain has been funding cultural research on this reservation for the past 2 years. They specifically requested detailed maps of sacred sites and burial grounds." Maya's face went white. She looked at Diego, whose expression was changing from confusion to betrayal. "Diego, I swear I didn't know. Your research notes contain detailed maps of every sacred site on this reservation," Agent Thompson continued, "including sites that aren't marked on any official documents." The crowd around them was getting angry. Maya could hear people talking in Apache and their tone was not friendly. "This is a setup," Diego said, but Maya could see doubt in his eyes. Agent Thompson opened the folder and showed everyone aerial photographs marked with Maya's handwriting. "Dr. Chen's notes indicate the exact locations of sites that would need to be moved before mining operations could begin." Maya felt sick to her stomach. It was true. She had mapped every sacred site during her first weeks on the reservation, but she had done it to preserve cultural knowledge, not to help a mining company destroy these places. "I never gave these maps to anyone," Maya said desperately. "I never even finished my research." "No, but you uploaded your preliminary notes to the university database 3 weeks ago," the agent said. "Copper Mountain has been accessing them through their partnership with your university." The crowd was getting more agitated. Maya heard someone shout, "Spy!" in English. Others were talking rapidly in Apache, their voices rising with anger. Diego's jaw was tight with fury. "Is this true, Maya? Have you been working for them this whole time?" "No, Diego, you have to believe me. I had no idea where my funding came from." "How can you not know who funded your research?" Diego asked, his voice cold. Maya realized how naive she sounded. "I never asked. The university handled all the financial details. I just applied for a cultural studies grant." Elena pushed through the crowd, her elderly face twisted with rage. She said something in Apache to Diego that made his expression even darker. "What did she say?" Maya asked. Diego translated reluctantly. "She said you're just like all the other white people who come here to take what they want and leave." Maya felt tears starting in her eyes. "Elena, please, you know me. You've been teaching me your stories." Elena spoke in Apache again, her voice harsh and bitter. "She says she was wrong to trust you." Diego translated. "She says you played the part of loving granddaughter to get closer to our secrets." The federal agents were taking pictures and making notes while this family drama played out. Maya realized that her personal pain was nothing compared to what this meant for the tribe. "Agent Thompson," Maya said, wiping her eyes, "I want to make a public statement renouncing any connection to Copper Mountain Mining. I want to withdraw all my research and refuse any payment from them." "Too late for that, Dr. Chen," the agent replied. "The damage is done. The mining company now has legal documentation of sacred sites that aren't protected under current tribal law." Diego stepped between Maya and the agent. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means that sites not officially registered with the federal government can be classified as open land for mining development." The full horror of the situation hit everyone at the same time. Maya's innocent research had given the mining company exactly what they needed to legally destroy the most sacred places on the reservation. "There has to be something we can do," Maya said. Agent Thompson shrugged. "The mining company will file new claims tomorrow based on this information. Unless you can prove the research was obtained illegally, these sites will lose their protection." After the agents and mining company representatives left, Maya found herself facing an angry crowd of tribal members. Many were shouting at her in Apache. Some of the younger men looked like they wanted to physically remove her from the reservation. Diego held up his hand for silence. When the crowd quieted, he spoke in Apache for several minutes. Maya couldn't understand the words, but she could hear the pain in his voice. Finally, Diego turned to Maya. "The tribal council will meet tonight to decide what to do about this situation. What about us? Maya asked quietly. Diego's eyes were cold and distant. I don't know if there is an us anymore. Maya felt her heart breaking. Diego, please! You know I would never intentionally hurt your people. Do I know that? Diego asked. You're a researcher, Maya. You came here to study us like insects under a microscope. How do I know this whole marriage wasn't part of some bigger plan? Because you know me, Maya said desperately. You know my heart. I thought I did, Diego replied. But I've been wrong about people before. Rosa approached them cautiously. Maya, you should pack your things. Some of the young men are talking about forcing you to leave tonight. Maya looked around at the faces of people who had become her family. They all looked at her with suspicion and anger now. Even the children who had been friendly before hid behind their parents. Diego, Maya tried one more time. Let me help fix this. Let me testify against the mining company. Let me donate money to fight them in court. With what money? Diego asked bitterly. The mining company money that funded your research? Maya realized that everything she owned, everything she could offer, was tainted by the connection to Copper Mountain mining. I'll find a way, she said. I'll sell everything I have. I'll quit my job and work for the tribe for free. Diego shook his head. It's too late, Maya. The damage is done. That evening, Maya sat alone in the guest house where she had stayed her first night on the reservation. It felt like a lifetime ago. She could hear the tribal council meeting happening at the community center. But she wasn't allowed to attend. Around midnight, Rosa came to the guest house with a solemn expression. The council has decided, Rosa said. You have to leave the reservation tomorrow morning. What about Diego? Maya asked. Diego voted with the council, Rosa said sadly. He said the good of the tribe has to come before his personal feelings. Maya felt like her world was ending. In the space of one day, she had lost her husband, her new family, and her sense of belonging. Rosa, Maya said as her friend prepared to leave, tell Diego that I'll spend the rest of my life making this right somehow. Rosa nodded, tears in her own eyes. I believe you, Maya, but believing you and trusting you are different things now. As Maya packed her few belongings, she made a promise to herself. She would find a way to save the sacred sites that her research had put in danger. She would find a way to win back Diego's trust and love. But first, she had to leave the only place that had ever felt like home. Outside her window, she could see Diego's house. The lights were on, and she could see his silhouette moving around inside. Maya wanted to run to him, to make him understand that her love for him and his people was real. Instead, she finished packing and prepared to face an uncertain future alone. Tomorrow, she would begin the fight of her life, not just for the land and the sacred sites, but for the love she had found and lost in the space of a few precious weeks. The mining company thought they had won by destroying the trust between Maya and the tribe. But they had underestimated what a woman in love was willing to do to protect the people who had become her heart. Maya drove away from the reservation with tears streaming down her face. In her rearview mirror, she could see the desert landscape where she had found love and purpose. Now it was all behind her, possibly forever. She drove straight to Phoenix and checked into a small hotel. Maya had a plan, but it would mean destroying her academic career and using every penny she had saved.
She didn't care.
Some things were more important than money or professional reputation. The next morning, Maya called a press conference. Local news stations came because the story of an anthropologist marrying an Apache leader had already attracted attention. What they got was much bigger news. I am here to expose Copper Mountain Mining Corporation's illegal attempt to destroy Apache sacred sites, Maya announced to the cameras. They funded my research without my knowledge and are now using that research to file false mining claims. Maya had brought boxes of documents, everything from her original grant application to emails between her university and the mining company. She spread them out for the reporters to see. These documents prove that Copper Mountain planned this from the beginning, Maya continued. They knew that cultural research would give them access to information they couldn't get any other way. After the press conference, Maya's phone started ringing immediately. Her department head at the university was furious. Maya's research partners were shocked. But Maya also got calls from environmental lawyers, tribal rights activists, and other researchers who had been tricked by similar schemes. Dr. Chen, said Jennifer Martinez, a lawyer who specialized in tribal law, what you've done today was very brave, but you've made some powerful enemies. I don't care about enemies, Maya replied. I care about stopping them from destroying Apache sacred sites. It's not going to be easy. Copper Mountain has been planning this for years. They have lawyers, money, and political connections. What do we have? Maya asked. Jennifer smiled. We have the truth, and we have a very angry Apache tribe that's ready to fight. Meanwhile, back on the reservation, Diego was dealing with his own crisis. The tribal council was split between those who wanted to fight the mining company and those who thought they should try to negotiate some kind of deal. We can't win against them in court, argued Tom Riverside, one of the council members. Maybe we should take their money and relocate the sacred sites. You can't relocate a sacred site, Diego said angrily. These places are connected to the land itself. They're part of our history and our spirits. Elena, despite her age, had become one of the fiercest voices for fighting. My grandson is right, she said in Apache. Some things cannot be sold or moved. Some things are worth dying for. But Diego was struggling with more than just the political battle. He missed Maya desperately. Every morning he woke up expecting to see her beside him. Every evening he wanted to tell her about his day. The house felt empty and cold without her laughter and warmth. Rosa found Diego sitting alone by the stream where he and Maya had talked about their future. You're miserable, Rosa said, sitting down beside her cousin. I'm fine, Diego lied. You love her, Rosa continued. And she loves you. I could see it in how she looked at you. Love isn't enough, Diego said bitterly. She betrayed us, did she? Rosa asked. Or was she just as much a victim as we were? Diego had been wrestling with this question for days. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that Maya's shock and horror when the truth came out had been genuine. No one was that good of an actress. I saw the press conference on the news, Rosa said quietly. Diego looked up sharply. What press conference? Maya held a press conference in Phoenix yesterday. She's fighting for us, Diego. She's trying to stop the mining company. That evening, Diego drove into town to use the internet at the library. He watched Maya's press conference online and felt his heart break all over again. Maya looked tired and sad, but her voice was strong and determined as she defended the Apache people and their sacred sites. She's destroying her career for us, he whispered to himself. Diego also read the news articles that had come out. Since the press conference, Maya was being praised by environmental groups and tribal rights organizations, but she was also being attacked by the mining industry and even by some people at her own university. One headline read, Anthropologist turns against own research to save Apache land. Another said, Academic career ends as professor fights mining company. Diego realized that Maya was sacrificing everything she had worked for to try to save his people's heritage. She wasn't getting anything out of this fight except the chance to make things right. The next day, Diego got an unexpected visitor. Jennifer Martinez, Maya's lawyer, came to the reservation to meet with the tribal council. Your wife is mounting a serious legal challenge against Copper Mountain, Jennifer told Diego privately before the meeting, but she could use tribal support to make it stronger. Maya's not my wife anymore, Diego said, but his heart wasn't in it. According to Apache law, she is, Jennifer replied. Marriage bonds don't break just because of arguments. And Diego? She's fighting this battle because she loves you and your people, not for any other reason. During the council meeting, Jennifer explained how Maya's evidence could be used to challenge the mining company's claims. She also revealed something that shocked everyone. Maya has donated her entire life savings to fund this legal battle, Jennifer announced. She's also quit her job at the university and is working for free to research other cases where mining companies have used academic research illegally. The council members looked at each other with surprise. Even Tom Riverside seemed impressed by Maya's sacrifice. Why would she give up everything for people who have rejected her? Asked one council member. Because she's become one of us, Elena said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at the elderly woman. I taught her our stories. I saw her heart. She didn't marry Diego for convenience or politics. She married him for love. That night, Diego couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Maya alone in Phoenix, fighting a battle she hadn't asked for, sacrificing everything for people who had turned their backs on her. Around midnight, Diego made a decision. He got in his truck and drove toward Phoenix. Maya was working late in her hotel room, surrounded by legal documents and newspaper clippings. She had been living on coffee and determination for 3 days straight. When she heard a knock at her door, she assumed it was room service with more coffee. Instead, she opened the door to find Diego standing in the hallway. "Diego," she whispered, her heart jumping into her throat. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. Maya stepped aside, too shocked to speak. Diego looked around the small hotel room, taking in the chaos of papers and the evidence of Maya's obsessive work to save his people's land. "I saw your press conference," Diego said. "I had to do something," Maya replied. "I couldn't let them destroy your sacred sites because of my mistake." "It wasn't your mistake," Diego said, turning to face her. "I've had time to think about it. You were used just like we were." Maya felt tears starting in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Diego. I would never intentionally hurt your people." "I know," Diego said softly. "I think I've known that from the beginning. I was just scared and angry, and I took it out on you." "You had every right to be angry." Diego stepped closer to Maya. "No, I didn't. You're my wife. I should have protected you and believed in you." "The council voted to banish me," Maya said sadly. "The council can vote again," Diego replied, "especially when they see what you've accomplished in just 3 days." Diego picked up one of the newspaper articles about Maya's fight against the mining company. "You've gotten more attention for our cause in 3 days than we managed in 2 years. I've also made a lot of enemies." "Then you'll fit right in with us," Diego said with a small smile. "We've been making enemies for 500 years. Maya laughed despite her tears. "I've missed you so much." "I've missed you too," Diego admitted. "The house is empty without you. Elena keeps asking when her granddaughter is coming home." "Elena called me her granddaughter. She's been defending you to anyone who will listen. She says you have the heart of an Apache warrior." Diego reached out and touched Maya's face gently. "I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I let fear make me push away the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you," Maya said simply. "I love you too," Diego replied, "and I want to fight this battle together as husband and wife." When Diego kissed Maya, it felt like coming home after a long journey. All the pain and separation of the past few days melted away. They held each other tightly, both knowing that the real battle was just beginning but confident that they could face anything together. "There's something else," Diego said as they finally broke apart. "The tribal council wants to meet with you tomorrow. They want to officially ask for your help." "Even after everything that happened?" "Especially after everything that happened. You've proven that you're willing to sacrifice everything for our people. That makes you more Apache than some people who were born here." As Maya fell asleep in Diego's arms that night, she felt hope returning to her heart. Tomorrow they would start the real fight to save the sacred sites. It would be difficult and dangerous, but they would face it together. The mining company had tried to destroy their love by revealing the truth about Maya's research. Instead, they had only made their bond strong. Maya's return to the reservation was different from her first arrival. This time she came back as a proven ally, someone who had sacrificed her career and savings to defend Apache rights. The tribal council meeting was packed with people who wanted to see what would happen. Elena was the first to speak when Maya entered the community center. The elderly woman stood slowly, using her walking stick for support, and addressed the crowd in Apache. Her voice was strong despite her age. "She says you have proven your loyalty with actions, not just words." Diego translated for Maya quietly. "She says you are truly her granddaughter now." The council voted unanimously to welcome Maya back and to join her legal fight against Copper Mountain mining. But even as this personal victory unfolded, darker news was arriving. Jennifer Martinez had driven up from Phoenix with urgent updates. "Copper Mountain has accelerated their timeline," she announced to the council. "They're filing for emergency mining permits based on supposed environmental concerns." "What kind of environmental concerns?" Diego asked suspiciously. "They claim that heavy rains last month caused erosion that threatens nearby water supplies. They want permission to begin protective excavation immediately." Maya felt a chill of understanding. "It's a lie. There weren't any heavy rains last month. I've been tracking weather patterns as part of my research." "Of course it's a lie," Jennifer agreed. "But they have bought off some federal environmental inspector who's willing to sign off on their claims." The situation was worse than anyone had imagined. Instead of having months to fight in court, they now had only weeks before mining equipment would arrive on sacred Apache land. "We need to go public with this," Maya said. "We need media attention, protests, anything to slow them down. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya and Diego worked 18-hour days to organize resistance. Maya used her academic contacts to bring in experts who could testify about the cultural importance of the threatened sites. Diego coordinated with other tribal leaders across the Southwest to build a coalition of support. The story began attracting national attention. News crews came to film the beautiful desert landscape that was threatened with destruction. Environmental celebrities posted on social media about the fight. Maya gave interviews explaining how mining companies were using academic research to circumvent tribal rights. But Copper Mountain was fighting back hard. They hired expensive public relations firms to spread their own version of the story. Suddenly, articles appeared calling Diego a radical activist who was standing in the way of job creation. Maya was portrayed as an outside agitator who had abandoned objective research for political activism. Worse, federal agents began showing up at the reservation regularly, claiming to investigate potential violence by tribal protesters. The presence of law enforcement made everyone nervous and tense. "They're trying to provoke us into doing something stupid," Diego explained to Maya one evening as they watched federal vehicles patrol the reservation borders. "If anyone gets arrested for violent protest, they'll use it as an excuse to bring in more agents." The stress was taking a toll on everyone, but especially on Diego. As the tribal leader, he felt responsible for every decision and every outcome. Maya watched him grow thinner and more exhausted each day. "You need to sleep," Maya told him one night as she found him still working at 2 a.m. "I can't sleep. The mining equipment arrives next week. If we don't stop them by then, we will stop them," Maya said firmly. "But you won't be able to lead anyone if you collapse from exhaustion." Diego looked up from his papers with tired eyes. "What if I'm wrong about this fight? What if I'm leading my people into a disaster they can't recover from?" Maya sat down beside him and took his hands. "Do you remember what you told me about coming back from Harvard? You said you chose to come home because this is where you belong." "Yes. This fight is the same choice. You're choosing to protect what matters most, even when it's difficult and scary." Diego squeezed Maya's hands. "I couldn't do this without you. Before you came, I felt like I was carrying everything alone." "You're not alone anymore," Maya promised. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The next day brought news that changed everything. A young Apache man named Danny Crow Feather had been arrested by federal agents for allegedly threatening mining company employees. Danny was only 19 and had been one of the most vocal protesters. "This is exactly what they wanted," Diego said grimly, as he and Maya drove to the federal courthouse in Phoenix. "They want to paint us as dangerous militants." The courthouse was surrounded by protesters supporting Danny and counter-protesters supporting the mining company. Maya could see that tensions were running very high. Inside the courthouse, Maya got her first look at the full power of Copper Mountain's legal team. They had 6 lawyers in expensive suits, mountains of documents, and a confident attitude that said they expected to win easily. Maya and Jennifer sat in the gallery behind Diego and the other tribal leaders. As Maya listened to the charges against Danny, she realized this was about much more than one young man's arrest. "The prosecution is trying to establish a pattern of violent threats from tribal members," Jennifer whispered to Maya. "If they succeed, they can ask for federal intervention to protect the mining operation." Danny's grandmother, a dignified woman named Alice Crow Feather, took the witness stand to testify about her grandson's character. "Danny has never hurt anyone in his life," she said with quiet dignity. "He speaks strongly because he loves his people's sacred places. This is not violence. This is passion for what is right." But the mining company's lawyers painted a different picture. They presented recordings of Danny's speeches at protests, taking his passionate words out of context to make them sound like threats of violence. Maya watched Diego's face as he listened to the testimony. She could see his anger and frustration building. When the court recessed for lunch, Diego was barely controlled. "They're twisting everything," he said as they walked outside. "Danny never threatened anyone. He was talking about protecting our land, not hurting people." "I know," Maya said, "but we have to be smart about this. Getting angry is exactly what they want." That afternoon, Maya made a decision that surprised everyone. She asked Jennifer if she could testify as a character witness for Danny. "Maya, are you sure?" Jennifer asked. "The prosecution will try to attack your credibility because of your marriage to Diego." "Let them try," Maya said. I have something to say. When Maya took the witness stand, the courtroom was packed with reporters and tribal members. The mining company's lead lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Richard Hayes, stood up to question her. Dr. Chen, isn't it true that you married the defendant's tribal leader for political reasons? Hayes asked. No, Maya replied calmly. I married Diego Redhawk because I love him. And isn't it also true that you destroyed your own academic research to help this tribe fight a legal mining operation? I exposed how my research was being misused by your client, Maya corrected. I had a moral obligation to tell the truth. Hayes smiled coldly. The truth is that you've abandoned any pretense of academic objectivity. You're not a neutral observer anymore. You're an activist with a personal agenda. Maya looked directly at the judge as she answered. Your Honor, when I came to the Apache reservation, I thought I was just doing research. But I learned that some things are more important than academic careers or professional objectivity. When I saw how Copper Mountain was using my work to destroy sacred sites, I had to choose between my career and my conscience. So you chose your conscience? The judge asked. I chose love, Maya said simply. Love for my husband, love for his people, and love for places that are sacred and irreplaceable. The courtroom was silent for a moment. Then Elena Crowfeather, sitting in the front row, began clapping slowly. Other tribal members joined her, and soon the entire gallery was applauding. The judge banged his gavel for order, but Maya could see that her words had made an impact. That evening, as they waited for the judge's decision, Maya and Diego walked together around the reservation. The mining company's equipment was scheduled to arrive in 3 days. If Danny was convicted, federal agents would likely move in to protect the mining operation from violent tribal extremists. Whatever happens, Diego said, stopping to look at Maya in the moonlight. I want you to know that you've given me something I never had before. What's that? Hope, Diego said. Before you came, I felt like I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. Now I feel like we might actually succeed. Maya kissed her husband under the desert stars, knowing that tomorrow would bring either victory or devastating defeat, but whatever came, they would face it together, united by a love that had grown stronger through every challenge. The final battle for the sacred sites was about to begin, and Maya and Diego were ready to give everything they had to protect the land and people they loved. The judge's decision came down at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Danny Crowfeather was found not guilty of making terrorist threats, but guilty of the lesser charge of disturbing the peace. The mixed verdict meant he would serve 30 days in jail instead of facing federal prison time. Maya felt relief wash over her as she heard the news, but Diego's expression remained grim. It's not enough, he said as they left the courthouse. Copper Mountain will spin this as a victory. They'll say we're still dangerous and unpredictable. Diego was right. By that afternoon, news reports were focusing on the guilty verdict, rather than the more serious charges that had been dismissed. Mining company representatives were already giving interviews about the need for federal protection during their legitimate business operations. The next morning, Maya woke up to the sound of helicopters overhead. Looking out the window, she saw federal agents surrounding the community center. Diego was already gone from their bed. Maya dressed quickly and ran outside. The entire reservation seemed to be in chaos. Federal vehicles were everywhere, and agents in tactical gear were setting up roadblocks at every entrance to the community. She found Diego standing with other tribal leaders near the community center. His hands were behind his back, and Maya realized with horror that he was wearing handcuffs. Diego, she screamed, running toward him. A federal agent stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Ma'am, you need to stay back. That's my husband. What are you doing to him? Agent Thompson, the same man who had confronted Maya weeks earlier, approached with a grim smile. Diego Redhawk is under arrest for conspiracy to interfere with lawful federal mining operations. That's ridiculous, Maya shouted. He hasn't done anything illegal. He's organized protests that have delayed a federally approved mining project, Thompson replied. He's also made public statements encouraging resistance to federal authority. Maya watched in anguish as Diego and 3 other tribal leaders were loaded into federal vehicles. Diego caught her eye through the window of the van and mouthed the words, I love you, before being driven away. The arrest sent shockwaves through the reservation. People were scared, angry, and confused. Elena called an emergency meeting of the tribal council. But half the leadership was now in federal custody. They're trying to break our spirit. Rosa said as the remaining council members and tribal elders gathered in Elena's living room. They think if they take away our leaders, we'll give up. Will we? Asked Tom Riverside, who had always been skeptical of fighting the mining company. Elena, despite being 90 years old, straightened her back and spoke with fire in her voice. My grandson is in jail because he chose to protect our sacred places. If we give up now, his sacrifice means nothing. Maya felt overwhelmed by the responsibility suddenly placed on her shoulders. People were looking to her for leadership, but she didn't know if she was strong enough. I don't know how to replace Diego, Maya admitted to the group. You don't need to replace him, Elena said firmly. You need to continue his work until he comes home. Over the next week, Maya discovered strength she didn't know she possessed. She organized legal support for Diego and the other arrested leaders. She coordinated with environmental groups and tribal rights organizations across the country. She gave interviews to reporters and made speeches at rallies. But the personal cost was enormous. Maya barely slept, living on coffee and determination. She missed Diego desperately, especially at night when she lay alone in their bed. The worst part was visiting Diego in the federal detention center. He was being held 2 hours away in Phoenix, and Maya could only see him twice a week for 30 minutes at a time. You look tired, Diego said during one visit, his voice concerned despite his own situation. I'm fine, Maya lied, though she knew Diego could see through her pretense. Maya, you're pushing yourself too hard. I can see it in your face. I have to, Maya replied. People are depending on me. Your people are depending on me. Diego reached across the table and took her hands, the best he could manage with the handcuffs and chains. My people are your people now, but they don't need you to destroy yourself trying to save them. I won't let the mining company win while you're in here, Maya said fiercely, and I won't let the woman I love sacrifice her health and happiness for my cause, Diego replied with equal intensity. Their conversation was interrupted by a guard announcing that visiting time was over. Maya kissed Diego goodbye through the glass partition, her heart breaking a little more each time she had to leave him. Back on the reservation, Maya threw herself into organizing resistance to the mining operation. Copper Mountain's equipment had finally arrived, and workers were setting up at the edge of the sacred burial grounds. Maya organized peaceful protests every day. She brought in religious leaders from other faiths to speak about the importance of protecting sacred sites. She arranged for environmental scientists to document the potential damage to local water supplies. The protest movement began attracting national attention. Celebrity activists came to support the cause. Environmental organizations donated money and resources. Maya found herself giving interviews on national television news programs, but Copper Mountain was fighting back with everything they had. They hired private security contractors to supplement the federal agents protecting their operations. They filed legal motions to have Maya declared a public nuisance and banned from the mining site. The tension came to a head on a hot Thursday afternoon. Maya was leading a prayer circle near the mining equipment when private security guards tried to force the protesters to move farther away. This is still tribal land, Maya shouted at the head security guard. You have no authority here. We have federal backing, lady, the guard replied. Move your people back or we'll move them for you. Maya stood her ground even as the security guards moved closer. Behind her, tribal members began singing traditional songs and praying in Apache. The confrontation was being filmed by news crews, and Maya knew that how she handled this moment could determine the future of the resistance movement. We will not be moved from our sacred places, Maya declared, her voice carrying across the desert. This land is not for sale, and our heritage is not negotiable. The security guards looked uncertain. They had been expecting to deal with Diego, a man they could arrest and remove. They didn't know how to handle a woman who refused to back down, but wasn't giving them any excuse to use force. That evening, the video of Maya's confrontation went viral on social media. News organizations across the country picked up the story of the anthropologist turned activist who was leading Apache resistance while her husband sat in federal jail. Maya became the public face of the movement to save the sacred sites. Magazine articles featured her story. Environmental groups invited her to speak at rallies in other states. Film producers wanted to make documentaries about her journey from academic researcher to tribal leader. But success came with a price. Maya was exhausted from the constant pressure and public attention. She missed Diego more each day, and the responsibility of leading his people felt overwhelming. One night, as Maya sat alone in their bedroom, Rosa found her crying into one of Diego's shirts. "I can't do this anymore," Maya confessed. "Everyone thinks I'm so strong, but I'm falling apart." Rosa sat down beside her and put a comforting arm around Maya's shoulders. "Strength isn't about never breaking down. It's about getting back up every time you fall. What if I can't get back up this time?" "Then we'll help you," Rosa said simply. "That's what family does." The next morning brought unexpected news. Jennifer Martinez called with an update on Diego's case that changed everything. "The federal prosecutor wants to make a deal," Jennifer announced. "They'll release Diego immediately if the tribe agrees to allow limited mining operations in non-sacred areas." Maya felt her heart leap with hope, then sink with the reality of the choice they faced. Getting Diego back meant compromising on the very principles he had been arrested for defending. As Maya prepared to present this offer to the tribal council, she realized that the biggest test of her love for Diego wasn't about whether she could fight for him while he was gone. It was about whether she could make the hard choices that his leadership role required, even when those choices might break her heart. The woman who had accidentally stumbled into an Apache ceremony months ago was gone forever. In her place stood someone who understood that real love sometimes meant making sacrifices that felt impossible to bear. The tribal council meeting to discuss the federal prosecutor's deal was the most intense Maya had ever witnessed. The small community center was packed with tribal members, their voices rising in heated debate about whether to accept the compromise. "We can't give them any of our land," argued Maria Blackhorse, one of the tribal elders. "If we give them a little, they'll keep taking more until nothing is left." "But Diego is sitting in federal prison," countered Tom Riverside. "How can we leave our leader in jail for pride?" Maya stood before the council, feeling the weight of everyone's expectations. She had spent 3 sleepless nights thinking about this decision. "Before I tell you what I think we should do," Maya began, "I want to share something I learned from Diego's grandmother." Elena nodded encouragingly from her seat in the front row. "Elena taught me that our ancestors faced impossible choices too. They had to decide whether to fight the cavalry or accept reservation life, whether to send their children to government schools or watch their culture die. Every generation has faced moments where all the choices seem wrong." Maya paused, looking around the room at faces that had become her family. "But Elena also taught me that the right choice isn't always the easy one. Sometimes love means making sacrifices. Sometimes protecting what matters most requires risking everything." "What are you saying?" asked Rosa. Maya took a deep breath. "I'm saying we reject the deal. We don't trade our sacred land for Diego's freedom, because Diego wouldn't want his freedom bought with the destruction of what he was trying to protect." The room erupted in discussion. Some people agreed with Maya. Others thought she was being foolish. Elena raised her hand for silence. "The outsider who became our daughter speaks wisdom," Elena said in Apache, then repeated in English. "My grandson chose jail rather than compromise his principles. We honor him by doing the same." The council voted 8-3 to reject the federal prosecutor's deal. That night, Maya drove to Phoenix to tell Diego about the decision. She was nervous about how he would react to spending more time in federal detention because of her choice. When Diego saw Maya through the visiting room glass, his face lit up with the first genuine smile she'd seen from him in weeks. "You look different," he said as soon as they could talk. "Different how?" "Stronger. More confident. Like you found something you didn't know you were looking for." Maya told Diego about the council's decision. She watched his face carefully, looking for any sign of disappointment or anger. Instead, Diego's eyes filled with tears of pride. "You made the right choice. It was the hardest choice, but it was right. I was terrified you'd be angry with me for keeping you in here longer." Diego shook his head. "Maya, what you've done while I've been in jail has been incredible. You've united the tribe in ways I never could. You've brought national attention to our cause. You've proven that love and principle matter more than political compromise. I couldn't have done any of it without knowing that you believed in me." "I do believe in you," Diego said softly, "and I believe in us." 3 days later, everything changed again. Maya was organizing another protest when Jennifer Martinez called with news that seemed too good to be true. "The FBI has arrested the Copper Mountain CEO and 2 Federal agents for conspiracy and bribery, Jennifer announced breathlessly. Your press conference months ago started an investigation that uncovered massive corruption. Maya felt her knees go weak. What does this mean for the mining operation? It means the federal mining permits were obtained illegally. The operation is shut down immediately, and all charges against Diego and the other tribal leaders are being dropped. Maya started crying right there in the middle of the community center. Rosa and Elena rushed to her side thinking something was wrong. They're releasing Diego, Maya sobbed. The mining operation is over, we won. The celebration that erupted on the reservation that day was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. People sang traditional songs, drums echoed across the desert, and families began preparing for the biggest feast the community had seen in years. Maya drove to Phoenix to pick up Diego from the federal detention center. When she saw him walking out in his own clothes, free and smiling, she ran to him and threw herself into his arms. Is it really over? Diego asked, holding Maya tightly. It's really over, Maya confirmed. The sacred sites are safe. The mining company is finished, and you're coming home. The drive back to the reservation was magical. Diego kept reaching over to touch Maya's hand as if he couldn't quite believe they were together again. Maya told him everything that had happened during his imprisonment, how the tribe had rallied together, how the media attention had grown, how his grandmother had become one of the fiercest activists of all. I'm so proud of you, Diego said as they pulled into the reservation. You saved our people and our land. We saved them, Maya corrected. Together, the homecoming celebration lasted 3 days. Diego was welcomed back as a hero, but Maya was honored too. The tribal council officially recognized her as a full member of the tribe and gave her a traditional Apache name, Woman Who Stands for Truth. Elena presented Maya with a special gift, a beautiful necklace made from silver, mined on tribal land generations ago. This belonged to my grandmother, Elena explained. She wore it when she fought to keep our children from being taken to government schools. Now it belongs to you, because you fought to keep our sacred places from being taken by mining companies. A month later, Maya and Diego decided to renew their wedding vows. Their first marriage had been born from traditional law and necessity. Their second would celebrate the deep love that had grown between them through trial and triumph. The ceremony took place at sunrise in the sacred mountains that Maya had helped save. The entire tribe gathered to witness their union. Maya wore traditional Apache wedding dress that Elena and the other women had made specially for her. Diego wore ceremonial clothing that had been passed down through his family for generations. When I first met you, Diego said as they exchanged new vows, I thought you were just another outsider who wanted to study us like museum artifacts. I never imagined you would become the heart of our community and the love of my life. When I first came here, Maya replied, I thought I was looking for a research project. I didn't know I was looking for home. You taught me that home isn't a place. It's the people you choose to stand with when everything else falls apart. As the sun rose over the desert mountains, Diego and Maya kissed as husband and wife for the second time. But this kiss was different from their first. It was a kiss between equals who had chosen each other freely, who had faced their worst fears together, and who had emerged stronger than either could have been alone. 3 months later, Maya discovered she was pregnant. She told Diego the news while they were sitting by the stream where they had first talked about their future. A baby, Diego said wonderfully, placing his hand on Maya's still flat stomach. Our child will grow up knowing both worlds, the academic world you came from and the traditional world I was born into. The best of both, Maya agreed, covering Diego's hand with her own. Elena was overjoyed when they told her the news. This baby will be very special, she predicted. Born from love that conquered fear, raised by parents who fought for what was right. As Maya's pregnancy progressed, she found new purpose in her role as a bridge between two worlds. She established a cultural education program that brought university students to the reservation to learn about Apache traditions from tribal elders. She also helped create a scholarship fund for Apache young people who wanted to pursue higher education. You're doing what I always hoped to do, Diego told her one evening as they watched the sunset from their porch. You're helping our people keep their traditions while also preparing them for the modern world. We're doing it together, Maya reminded him. That's what makes it work. When their daughter was born on a clear spring morning, Maya and Diego named her Ayana, which means eternal blossom in Apache. The baby had Diego's dark eyes and Maya's determined expression. Elena held her great-granddaughter for the first time with tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "She will be a leader," the elderly woman predicted. "I can see the strength of her ancestors in her face." Maya had never imagined that her life could be so full and meaningful. She had published a book about her experiences that became a bestseller, but she donated all the profits to tribal education programs. She spoke at universities across the country about the importance of ethical research and the need to protect indigenous rights. But her greatest joy came from the simple moments. Watching Diego teach their daughter traditional Apache lullabies, helping Elena pass down ancient stories to a new generation, participating in ceremonies that connected her to something larger than herself. 1 year after Ayana's birth, Maya stood again in the sacred mountains where she and Diego had renewed their vows. This time she was there for a different ceremony, the dedication of a new cultural center that would preserve Apache traditions for future generations. The center had been built with money from the legal settlement the tribe had won against Copper Mountain mining. It would house Elena's stories, traditional artwork, and educational programs for both tribal members and visitors who wanted to learn respectfully about Apache culture.